how we got here today is really building connections. Just trying to elevate. Well, not trying. We are elevating to the next level of our business. And I feel like our first 2 years in business, we learned a lot.
So, like Diamond said, we pretty much, I think that starting off in our business, we were focused solely on providing services. So we're like, okay, what do we need to do to get people these services? We knew we couldn't do the services ourselves. So we're like, all right, cool, partnerships. So we quickly made contracts, made partnership agreements, and just started contacting people. And I think we did a really great job in being in our first year of business and being able to
just being us
have
two
10 business partners. We were in 10 active business partnerships, and they were providing their services, and we were the middleman, basically connecting the clients and the customers to the actual business owner.
Cheers. Connect
T
Podcast welcomes you.
Tap in, y'all.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Connect T Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Diamond.
And I am your host, Brandy McNeil.
And here on Connect T Podcast, we talk about entrepreneurial journeys as well as business etiquette.
Yes. So, today we're back, and we are going to start off by doing
them EBB Kids shirts right there.
What it is T. But we do got our EBB Kids shirt right here as well. As always, make sure you all, you can't head to the site right now. We're sorry.
Yeah, but you can DM us. You can DM us as well as send us an email.
Yes,
to purchase your child an EBB Kids shirt. And I mean, don't you want your children to be EBB Kids?
You should. We got some good things coming up for the children. Okay.
Yes. So this is just a little starter. It's a little starter for the EBB.
Starter pack. All right.
Now it's time for What It Is T.
What it is T. Okay, you can go first.
Let's do rock, paper, scissors. All right.
She wanted to be
rock, paper,
come on.
scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Shoots in one time.
What? Oh, just one?
Just one.
Okay, go.
Not best out of three. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. I feel like if you always pick the rock, you go win. But I don't know if you might hit you with this first, so I don't know. You might lose.
Okay. I'll go first again. All right. First question for What It Is T. Of course. Sorry, you all. What It Is T is a segment that we will do on every podcast episode where we will just be doing an icebreaker, pretty much answering whatever questions that you all as the viewers send in to us. If you are a business owner and you send us in a question, you do have an opportunity to be featured on a podcast episode for free. There's nothing you got to do but send in a question. So it will not continue on. So say you send a question in for this episode, you won't still be included for next month. You have to continue to send in a question. But we will randomly choose a business owner that has sent a question in to us to be featured on a podcast episode.
Yes.
And those winners will be announced at the end of each month.
Period. So send us questions, okay? And we're gonna answer them.
Yes. All right. So our first question, thank you so much for this question from the business owner that did send this in. What was your biggest challenge? All right.
Oh, it's so many.
What was my biggest challenge in anything
business.
Or in the business?
Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure you specify also.
Yeah. Well, it just says what was your biggest challenge. So I'm thinking like my whole life.
We're gonna assume that it's business.
I don't know what to say.
We're gonna assume that it's business.
All right. So biggest challenge in business. I'll say actually we'll relate it just to the podcast. Okay. So I think so far our biggest challenge has been with our podcast, figuring out what we want the brand to be for the podcast. So I think that we kind of went back and forth with Diamond is more like simple. She likes to stick to what we already know and stuff like that. I'm more like, I want to be extra. I want new this, new that. So
they said if it's not broke, don't fix it.
True. But I wanted the podcast to have a brand new name, brand new logo, brand new everything.
Because it's a separate entity from just EBB.
But I think it's
still still the same.
It's the same. And I think that we could have kept it. We could have made the podcast just be EBB Podcast, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do that. So that ties in for me to the biggest challenge, because I think what has been the biggest challenge for me is like, okay, I'm thinking you gotta have like this brand new idea, this brand new business for a separate branch, but it's like, it's the same. It's still a part of EBB.
But I don't think anything is wrong with that, though. I feel like that's why we have a balance.
Okay.
Because I'm simple, and then sometimes I feel like maybe I'm too simple. And Brittany's like, okay, we're going to turn it up a notch. Mm-hmm. And that's okay sometimes. Like,
yes.
I think it's the perfect balance. So.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge was just branding the podcast. I think we could have stuck with EBB. Everything. We could have stuck with the regular logo. We could have. But now it's still a challenge for me because although we've had a logo created for Connect T Podcast, now I want an icon. Right. So it's just challenging for me in the branding for the podcast.
Yeah. And you want it to be right too, you know?
Right.
You definitely want it to be right. So I understand, sis. I understand.
Yes.
All right, let me pick that last question. All righty. Did I rip the questions? How do you handle the support of family, friends, etc. when it comes to your business? Thank you so much to the business owner that sent that in. We definitely appreciate that. And I think that's a question. Mm-hmm. So I always say, like, I feel like we say in our minds that we don't want to focus on those things, but we still kind of focus on those things in the back of our mind because it's like, okay, like we feel like we do this and that for people, and we support you do this and that, whether it be friends, family, whoever, coworkers, like. Mm-hmm. I think we go back and forth on that, but at the end of the day, you can only just focus on who supports you. Like, you can't dwell on who don't support you, because I feel like that'll stop you in your tracks, and you be like, okay, why am I doing this?
Yep.
Or like, just forget it.
I agree.
That's been a challenge for us.
I definitely,
low key though, on the low though. It don't show.
On the low to the outside, but I think within us and just having meetings and conversations, sometimes we do kind of feel a way about certain people not supporting, whether that be sharing a post or sending a question or whatever. Sometimes buying a t-shirt, it's like it is kind of upsetting sometimes when you think about the people that are closest to you that you would expect to support that don't. But I don't even think that it's that don't. It's like you have to accept the way that people show up for you.
I was just about to say that, definitely. Yeah.
Instead of thinking like, oh, well, why didn't you share this? It's like, okay, maybe they told their coworker at work about the podcast, or maybe they, or whatever. Maybe they show someone the page. You never really know. So I think that you can't really get too tied into like, oh, it's my family and friends reposting my posts. Are they buying my merchandise? Are they the first ones to, this and that?
I think it's so funny if you see them repost other stuff and you be like, hold on.
Why you ain't repost mine
stuff yesterday? What's going on here?
Like, so just not getting too caught up into it, because I think that you really can. Because sometimes we do have conversations where it's like,
dang,
why you ain't? This been my friend for how long, and you still ain't bought a $25 shirt? Like, what?
But it also makes you reevaluate yourself too in your business. What are you bringing to it? Like, what are you doing to make people want to?
What are you bringing to the table? Because I think you also, it's two-sided. You also have to take a look. Like, sit back and be like, okay, there's a reason why people are not coming towards this object or this idea or whatever.
That's where you pop in, turn it up a notch. I can tell y'all.
Yes.
Definitely turn it up a notch. So definitely a balance. I love that.
Ooh, great question.
Yeah, that was a real great question. It could get deeper, but we're not gonna get deeper. And not in this episode.
So that is the end of What It Is Tea for today. We're going to get straight into the episode now after we sip a little. What's up, you guys? So, as you know, Connect Tea Podcast, it's all about these teas, right? Giving y'all the tea. But you know that we had to make sure we had some actual good Black-owned tea on these episodes. So, if you have been looking for a Black-owned tea company, we got one for you. Think Tea, which is located here in Georgia, but you can always find them online. Today, we do have our Get On Up tea, which we drank this morning, and I definitely have to say, it definitely got us up. And that is just your wake up breakfast tea, black tea, super good. And then we also have the fruit medley tea, which is a more fruit healthy tea, which we getting ready to have here in a little while. But I definitely would recommend these two, but there's a wide variety of teas for you all to choose from. So definitely make sure you head over to Think Tea and try their teas today.
So as we mentioned in our introduction episode, where we did previously have business owners, so where we did do partnerships and we did come up with contracts. We just want to touch on that and just like the role that you play as a person giving the contract,
Yes.
and then the person on the receiving end.
Yes.
I feel like you guys both have roles to play.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So when it came to our business partners and our contracts, I feel like we didn't think that deep into it. We're just like, okay, we want to provide services, so let's put it on paper. We didn't think deep into it once again, you know, but it's a
Learning process,
definitely. But we weren't thinking about the responsibilities of the person on the other side of the contract. And I feel like we were fulfilling ours so much to the point that we was like, hold on, we're doing too much.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
and they're not showing, like, sometimes wouldn't show up for us, things like that, but we're putting you in the
and not
forefront.
even for us, show up for yourself.
That too.
In the contract, like fulfilling
business,
your role. So I think, you know, when you think about contracts, even with more so a partnership, thinking about a partnership, obviously it's gonna, you know, it's gonna take more than one person. It works both ways. So there's duties on both sides. So I think, you know, when going into creating a contract, and specifically about a partnership, you have to really be very basic, but be very detailed with exactly what each party is supposed to do. Whether that's even checking your social media or, you know, responding to communications with the person that's contracting with you. You have to be very specific because, Diamond, like you just mentioned, we wanted to make sure that we had the partnership agreements down, and we made sure we went through and made sure whatever legal things needed to be there were there and in place. But I think that we did include what they should do, but it wasn't detailed enough.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, you're responsible for A, B, C, and D. But it's like, really, you should have been, you responsible for A through F or like
Z.
A through, like literally. But then we would have this long drawn out responsibilities for us.
Yeah.
So I think that you have to be very cognizant of that in going into a contract, and not even just with a partnership. So think of a more simpler contract. Maybe you have someone doing some web designs, you know, for your website. You have to make sure not only that your role is filled out on that contract when you're reviewing it, you got to make sure what you want from the person that's giving you the service has that all laid out on their end too on the contract. And then
that's real important.
Yeah, making sure that you really review the contract.
Yeah.
Y'all.
Well, I was just about to say that.
Because let me tell you, now, y'all know I have the legal experience for reviewing contracts and writing contracts, right? So most of the time, Diamond will leave it up to me to review the contract and make the decision. But sometimes I might take too long, right?
Yeah.
And she want it done. So she may go in and she done signed, she done dated, and she's like, oh, I did the contract. I come and look at it and I'm like, well, you didn't like this. What about this? What about this? But it's like, that's because she doesn't know specifically what things should be on there, shouldn't be on there or whatever, versus I do. So I think that
I only know the minor things. Like I don't know like the bigger things. So
right.
Like, okay, he didn't touch this and that. She didn't touch this and that. Okay, we cool. We can sign it.
But and then it's like she done already signed it. So here we are. I'm like, well, we're stuck with what's on there because you signed it before I read it. So sometimes that happens, but it's always a way, in case y'all don't know, it's always a way to get out of a contract. FYI, I'm gonna just give y'all that disclaimer.
You're legal, boo.
And being an entrepreneur, you go into so many different agreements with people, whether they're on writing or not, and you just want to make sure that you're always covered.
Yeah.
But I also think to kind of piggy back on that, do you think that it's always necessary as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, to have a written agreement with everyone that you do business with? What do you think?
It depends on what we're doing.
So it depends.
Yeah, I think it depends.
Okay, so you don't think it's necessary?
No, I feel like it really depends on what it is.
Okay.
Because I feel like it'd be those times where you feel like, okay, maybe this is just mine. This is small. We don't need a contract. And then a few or 3 weeks later, a month later, you're like, hold on, we should have did a contract.
Yeah.
Like now, because another thing.
Now you have nothing
hold on. And then when you don't do contracts, people do what they want to do. And I don't like that. Okay?
Very true. That is very true.
We all fall victim of that. Even being the person like
yourself. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I can do this whenever, or
we didn't do nothing They didn't set dates, they didn't set deadlines.
So we're gonna do this whenever we do it.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that can definitely get you in trouble in the long run.
Yeah.
And then also, I think my answer to that question is no. I think it depends too. Yeah. I think sometimes you just have such great relationships with people, and you see how they work, you see how they see how you work, and it just works out. You don't necessarily need
that's very rare.
a written agreement.
That's rare. Because you
I don't know that I say it's rare. I think that we kind of have conditioned in our mind that you gotta have a agreement, that it has to be written, just because it's like that's what you're told, and that's
True.
Kind of like the formality. But I think when you are able to have a group of people, or whether it's one person, two people, that you don't have to do that with all the time, it feels good for the both of you.
Yeah,
because you know, like, okay, I don't have nothing written down, but I know they gonna come through and do this, and they know that we're gonna show up and do what we're supposed to do. That's pay you, and, whatever. Yeah. So I think it feels good to not always have that agreement, but of course, sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah,
sometimes it's definitely necessary. Yeah, definitely. And if you want anything, if you ever suspect that you're going to have an issue later on, definitely get the agreement in writing.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Speaking about issues when it comes to contracts, do you feel like we've had issues when it came to contracts?
Yes.
Maybe, or you've been trying to get out of them, some.
Yes. I do. And I think, once again, it comes from the lack of not reviewing the contract thoroughly,
and communication,
because sometimes too, that's really
communication.
Sometimes you're so comfortable with a person and what they're doing, what they're offering you, and not even comfortable, that's probably not the word. Sometimes you just trust in whatever the person is offering, that you don't feel like, oh, I need to go break down A, B, C, and D on this contract. You just kind of glare over it, and it's like, okay, cool. Yeah. Like, they said they're going to do this, but you don't really see, like, oh, well, I done signed and agreed to him finishing this project 3 months from now. I need this done in 15 days.
Right.
True. So I think in that sense, yes, we've had issues where we didn't thoroughly look over the contract. We signed, and sometimes you hold your tongue. And you don't see something on a contract that you want in place. Yeah. You don't say anything.
And you just hold off, and then it'd be too late. Yeah. And then it'd be too late.
Yeah. We'll have a conversation about it, like, oh, well, we want it to be this, but then you don't tell them. Right. So then it's like, now you end the actual project, and you're trying to be like, oh, I want you to do this, but
you didn't say that. Like, hold on, you didn't say that first. You didn't say that.
So how do they know?
Yeah.
And then I feel like you could get upset, in your business relationship with the person, because you didn't put the proper measures in place.
And that can go back to our partnership, because I feel like we didn't put everything that we wanted. We really was just rushing. But it wasn't like a rush, like, oh, we want to hear from our business. No, it was just like, we want to provide these services and products to people.
Yes.
And especially,
and it was new. I think for us, it's like, okay, we got the paperwork. Here we go. Now contact these people, get these partnerships, sign up. It was more of like we doing this. Oh, we get people actually signing. We got actually becoming partners with us. Like, oh, hold on. Not really having that experience and knowing you should have had,
and them trusting us.
Yeah.
Really, and them trusting us.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely a lesson learned, and still thankful for it.
Yes.
Still definitely thankful for it.
For sure.
And we're happy to share with business owners out there who are experiencing it now, or have experienced it, We just got to be better.
Got to do better.
It goes into those business etiquettes 101. Do you love a good read? Yes, we all love a good read. Here we have Leaving Legacies by Dr. Celestine. You can purchase this Leaving Legacy book at drcelestinemcneil.com. Here in this book, she has incorporated the alphabet as well as shapes of her family members. So you can teach your little ones the alphabet, the shapes. And I also just think it's really neat to just leave as far as like generations. Because I feel like like the names of your family members, but can you put the faces to them? So yes, head over to drcelestinemcneil.com to purchase her Leaving Legacy book. She also has other books on her website as well, so check those out. And also check out www.buildyourownbooks.com. Miss Latifah Bryant, who did help her publish this book. So contact them, purchase your Leaving Legacy, okay? Purchase it. So I thought that was a really interesting conversation about contracts, the importance of contracts, our lessons from contracts and partnerships. Do you have anything else, Brandy?
I just wanted to say, to wrap up the contract talk, make sure that, a lot of us are new into business. A lot of us may be first generation entrepreneurs. So you may not necessarily have people to look to or guidance. So with contracts, because also, as I said, you can get out of them, they also can be binding as well. So you just want to make sure, if you're like Googling and finding contracts that are already generated, make sure somebody looks over them for you. Make
Yeah.
sure you have someone that actually knows what needs to be there, what don't need to be there, what you may need to stipulate, talk about, or
Right.
whatever. Make sure you have somebody look over that for you, because you don't want to be in a situation as a business owner trying to get out of a contract that you signed that
Right.
is legally enforceable, right? So the excuse can't be that you didn't read it and you just signed it,
Yeah.
because it's like,
Please don't
okay,
please don't show up and say that.
it's like, okay,
That's cool.
and
yeah, I'm not gonna
So-
want to hear that.
I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that, you know, you got to be careful still. You know, we in the age of all the Googling and being able to easily find
Right.
the resources that we need, but everything isn't good and
Yeah.
everything isn't right also. So you just
That's
got to
true.
make sure that you do your research, and you also have someone else that's following up
Mhm.
and reviewing things for you too.
Yeah. And I think important, put in your contracts what you want. That is so important.
Yes.
Put it in writing what you want. Okay.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
important.
So that wraps up our episode today on Connect T Podcast. Make sure if y'all have any agreements that y'all are wanting to get into or are in right now, please know that EBB does still do the consulting work. So feel free to send over any contracts that you may want reviewed, or if you need help drafting a contract agreement, we are definitely in the business of doing that, and we've done that for many people. So
Yes. Thank you guys for joining us. Subscribe and share. Tell a business owner and send in them questions. Okay. DM us on Instagram or Facebook. And also executingblackbusiness@gmail.com. Send them to our email. Okay. And purchase your EBB Kids shirt. Okay. Get your kids in the EBB Kids merch.
don't play with the EBB kids, y'all.
Okay. This is just a starter now. Okay. Starter. You can customize the color you want to.
And if you're tired of seeing the shirt, that means it's time for you to buy one.
Period.
Okay.
All right. Until next time. Connected.